I didn't like my job, but I knew bills had to get paid. You know, Steve Harvey and people like that would say, just, or Will Smith, just jump,
Yeah.
jump. Your wings will come, bro. I had the wings now, but before they were developing.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can't jump if your wings are not developed yet. And if there's no
Ooh, pause,
shame in
pause,
working.
pause. Hold on. Say that again. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Conversation with Myuze. Today I have a really special guest for you guys, super funny, super talented, 1/3 of Three Shots of Tequila podcast, Marvin Abbey. Welcome Marvin to the show. Hi Marvin.
What's happening? What's happening? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being a part of this. So we generally like to start off each show with a this or that. It's an icebreaker. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then you'll tell me which you prefer out of this or that. All right.
I've got to give a reason, or is it just like a fire, as in like?
Yeah, like a rapid fire. You don't have to give me a reason. It's just a rapid fire.
Okay, cool.
All right. And so we'll start with white or brown liquor.
Ooh. This white brown.
That doesn't exist. Okay, Jordans or Yeezys?
Oh, this is some hard. It's Jordans. It's got to be Jordans.
Okay.
Because Jordans got too many models.
Okay. A chill night at home or Raven?
Raven.
Morning person or night person?
Night.
Movies or books?
Movies.
Basketball or football, soccer to you?
Oh, that's a no-brainer, man. You know where I'm from. You know where I'm from, right?
I know.
I'm from London.
And the funny thing is, your team is what, Arsenal?
Yeah.
Okay, we don't want to talk about that right now. All right. Twitter or...
Hold on, what are you trying to say? I knew. What? Is this how we started? All right, cool. All right.
Twitter or IG?
IG.
Cardio or strength training?
Strength training.
Tea or coffee?
Tea. I hate coffee.
Okay. And then the last one, summer or winter?
Summer, because obviously if you've been working in the gym and that, you can show off your gains, and obviously women look good in summer. But winter, if you got good winter drip,
you're right.
A nice jacket, and do you know what I'm saying?
I thought you were going to say summer because a lot of people in London just like, I hate the cold. So that's funny. Because you're talking about the drip. So that's cool. So tell our audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Whenever I'm asked this question, it just feels weird because it's kind of like, like you're selling yourself. It just feels like a dating app.
All right, so let me do the accent for you. What do you do for a living?
So fortunately for me, I have a podcast, which is called, as you said, Three Shots Tequila. It's 3 black guys that live in London, and they just tell their experiences about life in general, how they've grown up, how they see the world, social media, girls, guys, dating, whatever. It's just from our perspective in terms of just being London guys, how we see Americans, how we think they see us. Our experiences when we have been to America, because I've been New York, Texas, all over the place, to be fair. So it's kind of like we kind of bring back stories and stuff like that. So yeah.
You guys' American take is always weird, but we're not going to get into that right now. How did you guys go about starting a podcast?
With the podcast space, the story is it's a weird story because we started before social media, if that makes sense, as 3 separate people. So I didn't realize I was building a platform for myself a long time ago. It was just more about, for example, being on Twitter and having a community with your friends where you just joke around, tweeting each other, making up hashtags about each other.
Yeah.
And it grew from there to kind of Instagram. I remember the first time downloaded Instagram, I was taking photos of trains.
And that was your content.
Yeah, because it was a photo app.
Yes.
So I took pictures on trains. Like I thought I was a photographer. So I used to take pictures and shit, put a filter on it, a 1979 filter, and that was it. But then it kind of, everyone started to go onto Instagram and then put pictures up and it started to change.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I changed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you kind of adapted to.
Yeah, I adapted so that there wasn't a plan that was like, you know what, I'm going to do this because I want to do a podcast
Mm-hmm.
years later.
Yeah.
And I've done radio as well in London. That was quite successful. But then my friend that I'd done radio with moved to Birmingham to open a bar. So that had to stop. So then at that point in time, I was like, what can I do now? And then the other two members, one wanted to do a YouTube, and then that was Taser. And then Keith's sister used to listen to podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And Keith used to listen to podcasts. So Keith was like, why don't we do a podcast? And because Taser and me and Keith already had done radio before, we were like, it'll be good for Taylor to get on board because he's not similar to us. Like it's a different audience, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's when we just came together and then done the podcast. And then we released it on a Friday with no promo. And then we got like 9,000 listens or something in the first 24 hours.
Oh, that's lit.
And that's when we knew we were onto something. And then it just started to grow from there.
That's crazy. So it really necessarily wasn't podcasting what you wanted to get into. Like you said, you did radio. Did you have any kind of idea that I want to be in broadcasting or I wanted to be in media, or that wasn't something that was on top of mind when you decided to jump into the podcast?
You know, growing up, like you watch programs like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, for example, and you see Will Smith as a character, like you see he seemed to have got the girls because of the personality, and do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I used to watch Saved by the Bell, Zach Morris as well. Like so I used to look at people like certain people are rated. I'll be like, okay, cool. I want to be like him when I grow up, kind of thing. But I used to play a lot of football in London as well. So yeah, I think that kind of helped growing up. That I wanted to be something, and my mum used to always say, "Oh, you're funny." People always like, "Oh, you're funny," but it's like, how do you
translate funny?
How do you translate funny into money or career or something? And I didn't know how to do that. So I used to work a 9 to 5, but do stuff on the side. And I think the key thing was I knocked on so many doors. So I kept on knocking, like as in I tried, I was on Twitter doing something there. Then we done like a web series as well with some of my friends.
Okay.
We done that. Then I done radio. Then I done the podcast. So I kept doing stuff. I do events as well.
Yeah.
So there's so many things that I'd done, and it's kind of with life. It's like one of these has got to work.
Have to click, yeah.
It's got to click, innit? It's got to click, and then that's what it was really.
That's crazy. So I do want to get into some of your event stuff a little bit later, and like even the funny side of who you are, right? Because you do have a page for that. So I want to tap into that in a little bit. But with 3 Shots, it has grown from just like the Mandem group chat, right? To now we're seeing that you guys are inviting more female guests on. What was the shift and the reasoning behind that shift in opening it up to basically a different audience?
Yeah, I mean, I think originally it was the guys group chat, as in like, and so many girls loved that because they were like, do you know what? Because a long time ago with podcasts, a lot of men said what women wanted to hear, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I think a lot of women know when they listen to guys talk, although they might be like, yes, he's talking the truth. In the back of your mind, you know, this ain't the real truth. Do you know what I mean? Whereas women appreciated our unfiltered take, as in we were just on a vibe of, nah, this is what it is. Nah. And then it's kind of like
Kevin Samuels type of ish. That's really what it was.
Yeah. But not like Kevin Samuels though. Don't get them coming from you.
No, definitely not. They're not like that.
The way women hate Kevin Samuels, but it's mad. Like I posted something of Kevin Samuels the other day, and women were just going mad. I'm like, wow, like the way they dislike this guy, or some of them, is crazy. But it's like they will say stuff like, he makes sense, but I just don't like his delivery. But I'm like, yes, but is the problem the message or the messenger? The message should be more important than the messenger, no? But anyway, that's another story.
Yeah, that's a whole different conversation.
A whole different conversation, and I'm not ready for that right now. So yeah, so we used to have that, and women used to really appreciate it. They said it was like being a fly on the wall, or like listening to a men's locker room, kind of, because they were getting a lot of insight into men that they hadn't maybe been savvy to before. But in regards to the women, because we were doing it for so long, maybe like, I think it was like 3 years, 3.5 years, we thought it might be good to have women in the studio, because sometimes that conversation can be had in real time,
Yeah.
as opposed to us saying, why do women do X, Y, Z, and no woman be in the studio to say why
Give
they
their
do it, if
point of
that makes
view.
sense.
Okay.
Yeah, their
Yeah.
point of view, you know what I'm saying? So we could see whether they agree with us, disagree, and also it's just to freshen up the podcast a bit, I think, as well.
Which I think is it was a good move. I saw that and I was like, oh, this is great because I listen to the pod as much as I can. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, it's a shift. And I love that dynamic because, like you said, you guys have been going for 3 years. You guys have a great following. You guys do your live shows, and it's a lot of success. So again, congratulations to everything that you're doing because it's like coming from where it started to where it is now. It's
Yeah, oh
amazing.
yeah, yeah.
So when I
It was,
saw
it
that, I
was
was
actually
like,
it was actually 5 years the other day, 5 years yesterday, or
five
2 days ago.
years. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. I feel
yeah,
well, you know what? Pandemic year kind of screwed me.
yeah.
So that's
That's the
not even
difference. Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
not even a year. Going back to what you mentioned about like, something had to click. 5 years into the podcast, was there any point where you guys just thought, or for you, where you thought, I just can't be bothered anymore, or it was so hard to keep going that you just had to get over that hurdle? Was there any moment where you felt like it wasn't going to like continue, or it's always just been because I know a lot of people we talk about consistency, right?
Yeah,
And we
yeah,
talk about
yeah.
how consistent you have to be for something to be successful, and especially with three people on a show,
Really
is
different
everyone
perspective.
always available? Is everyone does everyone commit the same amount of energy that it takes for it to be successful, or was there a point where you felt like, damn, someone's lagging, so maybe we may have to go a different direction, or that never came up?
Um, I feel like with the pod, we first of all when we started it, it was every 2 weeks. So
Mm,
I think for the first month or two, it was every Friday for 2 weeks. I mean, every second Friday, if that makes sense.
yes.
And then people were just like, nah, nah, because we were like one of the first people to actually use the hashtag for our thing. So it was like free shots tequila, the hashtag. So every
Mm,
Friday, the hashtag used to go mad, like hundreds of hashtags of free shots of tequila. Then we get people saying, no, I can't wait 2 weeks, because they'll listen to the pod and they'll be like, we have to wait 2 weeks for this. So then we change it to once every week. But then at that point in time, I was still working full time. So I was doing like 50 hours a week at work,
and
and
then
then
coming home
having
and
to, as soon as I finish work, yeah, yeah. And then as soon as I finish work on a Monday, because I used to do shift patterns. So on a Monday, I used to work early. So I'll start 8 a.m. and finish at 5 or 6. Then we had to drive like an hour to the studio. Then we would record for like 1 or 2 hours, maybe actually 2 or 3 hours. Then by the time I finish, I've got to drive another hour home, and then I've got work the next morning. So that's why you've heard in the pod with me talking about them not saying how Marv used to fall asleep in the car outside the studio,
yeah.
or fall asleep because there was times when I was literally knackered.
Hmm.
But you know what knackered means, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, because I
Oh
don't
well,
know if
for
I'm.
the audience, it's just like tired or
Oh,
very
okay, cool.
weary.
Because I might bust it. The lingo might be a bit
So for me, the lingo
London.
is fine, right? Because you know me,
Oh,
I'm
okay,
in
okay.
London and everything. But then for the audience, I'll translate for you guys. He means
And
like tired.
and you lot be doing the accent. Oh, you're knackered. You're knackered.
So it's like
No,
this.
no. The way you look do an accent. Anyway, yes, I used to be tired a lot of the time. But then it got to a point where I think we done it because we loved it. That was the main thing. It wasn't, obviously we believed there would be monetary gain somewhere,
Yeah.
but we done it because we love doing it. So there's been loads of times within the pod that we don't want to come in.
Mm.
Like I'm like, another Monday, I'm tired, or I've got stuff to do, or I want to go on holiday. Then we've got to record 2 or 3 episodes because someone's going on holiday, or there's so many variables to it. But
Yeah.
the goal is always, we've never missed an episode. An episode has never not come
In
out on a
five
Friday.
years, you guys have
In
never
five
missed an
years,
episode.
never missed an
That's
episode. There's none of this.
consistency.
Yeah, we've never said sorry, guys. Because of circumstances. Nah, my episode might have come out later than it's supposed to on a Friday, but
Yeah.
generally speaking, we've never missed a Friday. So I
That's
feel like our aim and our focus has always been on the prize, which is making sure the podcast comes out
which is
and the people get
amazing.
what they want.
Amazing. I do want to double back on something that you mentioned where you were working and doing the podcast and just having being super tired and all that stuff. Speak to us about, for it's like someone that's listening, speak to us about the commitment it takes to do both the thing that you love, because like you said, you guys love it, that's why it's still going and it's successful. And I think that's a gem where if you love something, just keep at it and at some point it will pay off. So
Yeah,
loving the podcast and then still having to make money, you have a 9 to 5 job.
yeah.
And then kind of shift the conversation into when did you know that you needed to leave your 9 to 5 job?
Um, so for me, with a 9 to 5, I always knew it weren't really for me. But you know, there's a very cliche line
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of people say, a 9 to 5 just ain't me. But some people need to realize that although a 9 to 5 isn't you, that might be just because you might be in the wrong job, the wrong career,
Mm-hmm.
or sometimes the human body, we're wired to be lazy. And sometimes hard
Ooh.
work is not the first thing on the agenda for some people. It's like the elephant in the room. People just don't want to just be to admit and say, I'm a bit lazy, you know. I don't really want to go to work today. I don't want to wake up.
Yeah,
But
you're right. You're right.
sometimes you have to wake up. So for me, I didn't like my job, but I knew bills had to get paid.
Yes.
So my thing was I wouldn't leave this job until I'm sure I'll be okay. You know, Steve Harvey and people like that would say, just or Will Smith, just
Jump.
jump,
Yeah.
jump. Your wings will
You,
come, bro.
when the
Bro.
wings doesn't come in, then your bills are due. You're
And then
screwed.
you're at the bottom of the cliff with a broken back. Listen. You know when millionaires talk and you're like, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it worked for you because you had a trust fund somewhere.
And it works for some people because it, they knew they had the wings already. And that sounds weird, but some people, if you're not sure,
Mm-hmm.
because remember, imagine I took this leap when I was doing stuff before.
Mm-hmm.
I had the wings now, but before they were developing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes you can't jump if your wings are not developed yet. And if there's no
Ooh, pause,
shame in
pause,
working,
pause. Hold on. Say that again. You can't jump until, if your wings are developing. I like
yeah, you can't
that.
jump if the wings are developing. I made that up on the spot, you know.
That's what I'm like. Hold on. Go back to that. That is
Yeah,
amazing. You can't jump if your wings are developing. That is a
yeah,
gem in itself. Continue. Sorry.
yeah. So for me, it's like until I was sure that, and the thing is, what people need to realize is, yes, there are times you need to take a leap of faith and trust in yourself, but you have to be honest with yourself also. So you can't jump and not be honest, because some people
Yeah.
don't have an honest conversation with themselves and say to themselves, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Is
Mm.
this going to be something that's going to be beneficial and actually going to work? They just
Yeah.
think, you know what, let me just take the leap and then let me just do this. But you haven't done your due diligence. You don't know if it's going to work or not. You haven't even worked hard enough on this new
Exactly.
venture. Do you know
Exactly.
what I mean? If that makes
Yeah.
sense. So
Yeah. Yeah.
whereas I'd put in like
Hours.
10 plus years of work behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So really and truly, my wings were always there, but I just wasn't using it. But
Yes.
then when I knew how to use it, then I jumped.
That's good. That's I'm glad that you brought up the working the 10 plus years of experience, because we always hear the story, and Kevin Hart has this story where he says, you saw me when all the movies were coming out. It was one year when Kevin Hart was everywhere, right?
Yeah,
And I remember
yeah,
him doing an interview and he said, this is, I've been working for 10 years. The door has been shut in my face so many times. So my overnight success that people see and think has been 10 years in the making. So you mentioning that you've been working 10 years and developing your wings. So when you went out to fly, then it was a little bit easier. It wasn't super easy because there's heartaches and I'm sure challenges and stuff, but it was somewhat easier. Is that fair to say?
yeah, 100%. And I feel like what's happening now with society is someone will see me now, for example, and see the podcast success
Mm-hmm.
and be like, I want to do that. And that's great because you're encouraging other people, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the time, people don't want to put in the same work, or they don't see the work you've put in, they just see the success.
Yes.
So in their mind, they're thinking, my podcast has got a pop within 4 or 5 episodes. If not, I'm
Then
not
they're
doing it
done.
anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But that's
Yeah.
not how you're supposed to look at it. You're supposed to enjoy it first and then don't look at the numbers. But the thing is, you can't judge off. That's like musicians judging themselves off of like Beyonce or Jay-Z. You're never
Yeah.
going to be a musician then,
Because then you
because
have to start somewhere.
yeah, you got to start somewhere. Do you know what I'm saying? So, and Jay-Z was somewhere once upon a time. So was
Yeah.
Beyonce once upon a time.
Yeah.
So if Beyonce looked at someone saying, "I can't be like that," your process it takes time, and sometimes you learn your lane, you fall into stuff. Someone will like maybe retire, which allows you to take that space.
Exactly.
There's so many variables in the world that people don't really understand. Even a pandemic, the act of God like this, I'm sure some people have made businesses that,
They would
and
have
they're
never
making,
thought of.
they would have never thought about, because it's this stage that made them the door open for their blessing and favor, if that makes sense. Whereas
Yeah.
a year ago, it didn't make sense. So
No,
yeah,
that's key. That's key, and it's kind of knowing the moment too. You said something about when with the podcast, when it originally dropped, you guys were using hashtags, and that was the thing that was blowing up. Social media now, social media marketing is so huge compared to traditional marketing.
yeah.
How do you, just in your personal, not even like for the podcast, but in your personal, how do you use social media marketing to market yourself, which then kind of market the podcast and every other venture that you have?
Yeah, the thing is, that's so hard when you market yourself, because people don't realize, people see you on the gram and they'll just think, oh, you're on the gram again, but they don't realize that it's like a domino effect. So, for example, if you come on my page and you find something funny, or I engage with you in my stories,
Mm-hmm.
then you're more likely to see the pod or hear about the pod.
Mm-hmm.
You're more likely to hear about my events, and it just goes on like that. But people don't realize that it works like that. It's literally, the more you're invested in someone, the more you listen to what they're doing, the more
Yeah.
you try and find out about them as a person. You see like what they do. Do you know what I mean? If that makes
Yeah,
sense. So
that
you
makes
have
sense.
to always keep active, because if I don't post after 2 or 3 days, for example, you look at someone else who posts,
Mm-hmm.
and you can lose that engagement, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So people forget about you very quickly.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of keep people engaged. Whereas even if you don't post something every now and, I mean, often, when you do, they're like, oh, Marvin posted. He's funny. Let me see what he's posted, or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever he talks about, it makes sense. Let me see what, do you know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
even Kevin Samuels, for example, anything he posts now, people give it at least 10, 15 seconds of their time.
Yes.
Whether it's inflammatory, whether they agree with it, disagree, whether they want to cuss him, whether they hate him, whether they like him. He's got to a stage now where whatever he posts or whatever he's involved in, people look and be like, I hate him.
Yeah. They
He
want to
talks
engage
sense.
it
He's
somehow.
engaged people. Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So you need to be able to engage your audience somehow, so that whatever you bring out, whether it's a rave, a podcast, whatever it is, they engage. Even like your captions on your Instagram, people don't realize. That's why whenever I put a picture up, I always put like a mad caption, because people will
You
engage
are
with
the
the caption.
caption king. So besides like Fabulous, the rapper, you were in. I think maybe it was probably 4 years ago when I started following you. I'm not sure. And what caught me was the caption. I don't know. You showed up on my timeline somehow, and then the caption. I was like, what? The caption was so funny, and then the hashtags, and I was just like, no, 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 no. I have to follow this person. Like this is too much. So
Yeah,
yeah. So to your point, the caption.
I've changed since then. I remember it to be there's these hashtags all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But in Instagram before, you couldn't edit your captions. Remember that?
Oh yes, yes, yes. You couldn't go back and edit. Now
But
you can.
if I made a mistake on one of my hashtags, I've got a bit of OCD. So there was times when I'd make a mistake on a hashtag, and then there'll be like, it'll be blue, then
Mm.
there'll be one letter that's black, and
So
I used to hate it. So it got to a point where I was like, nah, do you know what? My OCD is, I can't do this no more. So I stopped doing the hashtags.
hmm
But and then I started to kind of change my page and try and be a bit more like, not fashion based, but show people how I can dress.
hmm
So that if brands looked at my page, it looked a bit better. But then I've kind of a bit of both now, that like I see the benefit of doing both.
That's interesting to me because you mentioned, and I wasn't going to get into personal branding, but since you kind of brought that up, uh, how you kind of switched your page because there has been, it's not a huge shift because you're still you're still very
Yeah.
personable, you still engage on social media. But you mentioned now that you guys are with all the stuff that you're doing, you're at a
Yeah.
different level now, right? So you're saying that if brands looked at your page, how important is personal branding to you personally?
I mean, it's important to me because your brand is you. So sometimes people have to look at your, not even sometimes, you got to look at your Instagram page like this. If somebody new comes on your page, what would they think?
hmm
So a lot of the time when people do their Instagram pages, they do it as, my friends know me or people know me, so they know what I'm like. But you can't look at it like that, because people that know you forget that.
hmm
You got to look at it, it's kind of like, if you go to a job interview, how do you go to that job interview?
You present your best self.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's the person meeting you for the first time. So with your
Facts.
Instagram page, you got to kind of look at your page like that, as in like if someone scrolled on my page and looked at my top 5 posts, as in the first 5 posts they see,
Mm-hmm.
what would they think? And that's how you're going to
Mm.
be addressed. As in like if it's funny, they're going to stay.
Yeah, yeah,
If you
yeah.
dress a particular way, they're going to look at you like that's how you dress. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So for me, the way I try and brand my page is at times I'll look at it and I'm like, no, I'm not happy with this. So I might hide some certain things or move
Mm,
the grid
mm.
around if that makes sense, because
Yes,
I
yes, yes,
got to
yes, yes.
look a particular way.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. I hate when I go on people's social media and they're posting like mad random stuff like, oh, the news that came out yesterday, but then it's like, you're not giving me any consistency here.
Yeah,
Like, even just
yeah.
like as a person, like, give me consistency. Show me your kids or your husband or something, not just a bunch of news articles. So that's super important. I do want to switch gears a little bit because we know that you do events as well. One of the events that I'm very aware of is Lux Sunday. How did that come about?
So Lux Sundays came about because a few of my friends. So it's basically there's a meme page called Hackney's Finest.
Mm-hmm.
Chizo Lifts on Instagram and Mr. Exposed, who I did the podcast with.
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted to do another event, but I wasn't involved originally.
Okay.
And I think they got me involved later. And it was basically, the concept was, in London, nothing really used to happen on a Sunday in London. There was like a few one-off events, but and Taser had an event called Faded,
Mm-hmm.
no, Old School Sundays on a Sunday.
Okay.
So him and Matthew used to do an event on Sundays every Sunday, and that was popping. So the guys were like, we should do an event that was on East, that was in the East Side, that was
Okay.
like Shoreditch, around those areas.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, let's do Lux Sundays, but let's do it on the south side of the water in Old Kent Road, which is like near Peckham. You heard of
Okay.
Peckham, right?
Yeah. 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 I know Peckham.
So we started it as a weekly event, and it started off a bit slow, and then it just built from there. And everyone knew that Lux Sundays was like the Sunday spot to go to.
Like a thing to do.
And I think we started it October 2017, and it was going every week until the pandemic hit.
Mm-hmm.
So that
And
was like what, 4 years every Sunday. That was tiring though.
because it's that the pod, and I'm sure probably some of that were you still probably still 9 to 5 or
No, I finished my 9 to 5 by
okay.
then.
Okay.
Actually, no, sorry. At the beginning, it was still a 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
But think about going to an event every Sunday,
Exhausting.
every Sunday, like, do you know what
Exhausting.
I'm saying? And then recording a pod every Monday, and
Then
do you know
going
what
to
I'm saying?
work.
Yeah. So
Oh, your commitment level. I can't say you're lazy. I absolutely cannot say you're lazy because your commitment to these things is crazy. How has the pandemic affected your because it's affected restaurants, all of that
yeah,
stuff. How did
yeah,
it affect the your events stuff?
yeah. It affected, like, the amount of money we lost. Is just, when we were talking about it the other day, it was crazy because you realized, like, wow, like, that's all I can say. Is because remember, everything stopped,
Yes, everything.
and we didn't see it coming, because if we had seen it coming, sorry, there might have been steps you took to maybe say, yo, like, double up on the events, for
Mm.
example, or do some more things. But it was just, remember, we didn't really take it seriously at first. Everyone was
The
like,
pandemic,
COVID.
yeah. It was like, oh, okay, we'll be home for a couple of days and then we'll be
Yeah,
back. Yeah.
you're like, black people don't get COVID. Yeah, people, you know what I mean? People just tell so many things. Black people don't get COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be out of it in a week. It's a nice break. We're off work and getting paid. Like, a lot of people are looking at it like that.
Yeah.
Like, a
Until
year and a
three
half
months
into it
passed
now,
and then we was just like, okay, wait, so this is a thing.
and now a year and a half into it, you can't fly nowhere. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
can't travel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, places are closed, gyms are closed. You're just at home, like, watching Netflix.
Twiddling your
It's like
thumbs like,
Groundhog Day. Every day is Groundhog Day. It's like, it
mm-hmm.
feels like the exact same day over and over. But back to what we were saying, yeah, we lost so much money. And also, when we came back, we started to do events again. Then we got shut down again. So it's the consistency as well, that they're not allowing
Yeah.
us to build up our momentum.
I,
And then also, what's happening now is a lot of people now are going to be doing events. So as soon as outside opens,
absolutely.
it's just going to be a madness of just events hanging from the ceiling. There's events going to be everywhere. So that's another thing as well. It's going to be like, competition has started again. It's like a new rat race.
But with competition, and because I know a lot of new people are going to try to get into the space because you're going to try to make a quick bag or whatever that
Yeah.
is. Because you guys have a branding and a situation already set up, do you think that it makes it a little bit easier, or do you have to go 10 times as hard to be like, okay, no, we have to remind people why we were one of the best events on Sundays?
It's a bit of both, to be honest. But the only problem is sometimes in life, you can't be too arrogant, and you can't
Mm,
believe that your brand is like above everyone else, because we were once upon a time a brand that no one knew about,
yeah,
and we took it there.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense on a Sunday. So anyone is capable of taking the spot. Do you know what I'm saying? Even in
Yeah.
basketball, it was Golden State once upon a time. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, so it was Miami once upon a time.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was Golden State once upon a time. Then it's the Lakers. Like, who's it
Yeah.
this year? Do you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it goes in roundabouts. So for me, it's a case of, luckily for us, a lot of the anticipation is there already. When we drop tickets, people are like, "Oh, you're dropping tickets for like
Mm-hmm.
Sundays," so
Mm-hmm.
that helps. But then we still have to make sure that the events that we do hold are are good, as in people are enjoying themselves. We kind of reinvent ourselves, we adapt. So
Mm-hmm.
like I'm always looking at stuff like games. We have like little games in our events.
Yes.
So I always try and change them up. I try and be at the events and be social,
Yeah.
walking around, talking to people, making sure they're okay, like very personable,
Mm-hmm.
if that's a real word. Um, that isn't it?
I think it is. Personable is
Oh,
a yeah. Personable is a real word. Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I was just testing you still. I was making sure
What?
you.
It is
No,
a
I'm
real
joking.
word.
Okay, cool.
um, for you speak about being like active and all that stuff and not being arrogant, because I think a lot of brands and business, and with this podcast it's really about like business branding and
Yeah,
just that arena. So when you speak to not being arrogant in something and starting a brand or doing whatever you're doing, a lot of businesses get complacent, so they don't want to, you say, adapt and kind of freshen up the your events. A lot of
yeah.
people get complacent and like, oh, I'm good at this and that's just what I'm going to continue to do this for the next 20 years and not
Yeah.
change or adapt. What would you say to someone who isn't fond of refreshing their brand or thinking outside the box to do something new and being up to the times? Like, what would you say to a person like that?
I mean, to be fair, the proof in the pudding is that if you look around you, if you look at Apple and Nokia, for example, Nokia at one point in time dominated the phone market,
Mm-hmm.
but then they didn't really. But in their minds, they saw Apple coming and they didn't rate Apple.
Mm-hmm.
They were like,
True. True.
"We're Nokia. We don't care about Apple." And look at the difference now. It's
I can't tell you the last time I seen a Nokia. Well, I
That's
don't
what I'm
even think the
saying.
business even exists.
But Nokia's still there, but it's kind of like even BlackBerry. There was a point in time when BlackBerry and Nokia dominated the market. iPhone was nowhere in the picture, and now when you
Mm-hmm.
look at it, do you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
my thing is, you see examples, and the only way that you can dominate without changing is like Coca-Cola. You just buy everyone.
Yes. Yes.
Then Coke ain't got to change nothing because they own the market.
Yeah.
And if something else does sell more than Coke, they don't mind because they still own it.
Yeah. That's
Do
true.
you know what I'm saying?
I
So you
never
got to
thought
look at
of that. That's a good point.
Yeah, so you got to look at stuff like, if you're not going to own it, then you need to stay ahead of the competition. And how you do that is that you got to look at people and be like, I go to events all the time. So I'll go to another event and be like, that's dope.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking that for my event. I've got no shame in saying that. And it's not like I'm stealing, but it's kind of like
You
I'm
were
looking at it like,
inspired. Yeah.
yeah, that's dope. And I'll still go to the event, pay money or whatever, but I look at stuff and try and take it away. So I always try and kind of think to myself, you know what, this will be dope in this. Even when I go to venues and I look at new event spaces,
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's better to actually go to a venue and look, and then you can kind of look and be like, all right, birthdays can go over here,
Mm-hmm.
the photo booth can be here.
Kind of
If you have games, it
strategize.
can be here. You got to kind of, well, that's how I do stuff. Like imagine it in my head,
Mm-hmm.
so that it's very easy to implement. So yeah, that's what I'll say to anyone, that if like, don't be arrogant enough to think that you shouldn't adapt, because even a little thing, like even just you having someone on the, like giving sweets out at the door.
Yeah, yeah. It's
You know
just
what I'm
something
saying?
new
Like,
and fresh. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like it's something that you would think, I don't care about it. But if you're walking into a venue and they give you like a lollipop or a sweet, it just subconsciously in your head, you're already coming in on a happy vibe. Like, oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
nice. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
you're
no,
not seeing
that's
that, like little things like that. Even just walking around asking people, you okay?
Yeah.
telling people, do you know what I'm saying? Photo booths, like people just want to have fun and they want to take away something from your night, some kind of experience. So the more experiences you add to that event, the more likely people are going to come back, tell their friends, or even just enjoy your event.
That's I really like that because you're speaking to it in an event standpoint, right? Which is your world. But when you're saying that, I'm thinking for because a lot of marketing that I do is e-commerce and online. So
Yeah.
it's the same thing if it's someone comes on your website and you're offering them like a free offer or you get free shipping, or if you say, hey, purchase this shirt and you get this hat for free, it's they remember something about your brand and it's setting aside. So that's super super interesting. I do want to switch gears, right? So we speak about how funny you are. You have this meme page that it's you asked for it. How did this page even come about? Like, what is the inspiration behind the page? What is because it's super funny. And it has a significant following behind it now because you build it up. But what was the inspiration behind that page?
So basically, the inspiration was, remember I was telling you, like, if you look at my page, if you scroll down to my page to the bottom, my page was like basically a meme page at one point in time. So when I was working full time, I didn't really have time to take pictures. I used to take pictures in suits and I don't know if you remember that, but I used to
Yeah,
wear suits a lot.
yeah.
So when I used to work in like Canary Wharf, Liverpool Street, those kind of financial districts, for some of your audience who might not know. So I used to take pictures of in suits and
It's like
whatever,
if
but
we're thinking about it, guys, it's like the Wall Street of London type of
yeah, basically,
situation.
yeah, like a
Yeah.
Wall Street, So, but I used to post memes all the time, like as in like anything I found funny, I'd post them, and then obviously, as you said, I'll use loads of different hashtags, or I'd write like a long caption, and then people used to love that.
Yeah.
So that was me for a point in time where it was like that's the door that I opened, or the door I was knocking on was the funny kind of meme caption guy,
Yeah.
because at that point in time, I was too busy to do anything else. But then when I got to a stage where I started to be more visual, being on the camera, the pod and whatever, I kind of realized that if a brand looks on my page, they're just going to be seeing memes and stuff. It doesn't
Yeah.
really make sense because although it's me posting the memes,
They don't know who
it's
that
not
is.
me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's not a face behind this page, but my name's on the page. Do you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Marvin Abbey's on the page, but you're seeing loads of memes. And
And
so
you
it was
can't
funny
really
for
tell the person that you can't tell who this person is, what the personality
yeah,
behind it.
you can't get my personality. And also
Yeah.
I might be someone who posts that, but then when you meet me, I might be a guy that's just quiet in the corner.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
You're
saying?
just
It's
like you're
like a bad,
not the same person that I see
yeah,
on
like
social media.
you're not what I thought you was, kind of thing. So there was that. So what happened was there was a point in time when I was just looking for my page and I just started posting loads of memes on my story, like all my old memes. Like, as in, like, you know, like when you go down and you just repost them on
Yeah.
your story. So everyone was cracking up and everyone's like, why don't you do this no more? Like, you should still do it. But in my head, I'm like, I can't because it will
Now you're a
mess with the feng
brand.
shui of my page. It doesn't make sense. So I'm like, do you know what? Because you lot asked for it, that's why I said you, that's why I called it you
You
asked
I
for it.
swear, yeah.
So then now what I do is I kind of, anything I find funny, I post on there, or any interviews that I see that are interesting, um, I just post on there. So it's kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of like my funny outlet a little bit.
Okay.
And then what I do now is I just repost that onto my story.
Personal
So
story.
technically it's me posting stuff, but from the other page, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah,
You kind
so
of
that's
just
what I've done.
put your funny in a bottle and put it somewhere else. It's like, all right, if
Yeah,
you want
yeah,
the
yeah.
funny me here, you go to that page. But the me who is like the brand and all of that stuff is the Marvin Abbey
Exactly.
page. I do
But I'm
like.
still funny on my pages and I still make funny videos. But remember, as I said, it's my face and it's me. So then that's me, whereas it's not like a meme,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's
That
the
makes
only
sense.
difference.
Perfect. Now, I do want to kind of wind down a little bit. Transitioning is hard in any sector, in anything that you're doing. How hard is it? Well, not even how hard is it. When do you know when to transition, right? Because you've said it earlier in the conversation that you were knocking on several different doors, and something has to open up. But when do you know when is the right time to transition into something else?
I feel like only you as a person will know that in terms of, but you need to be honest with yourself. A lot of people are not honest with themselves. And my thing is, most people you speak to that are doing their thing in the scene were working, still doing 2 jobs or
Yeah.
3 jobs, whatever, but you would have never known because you didn't know where they worked or they just didn't complain or they didn't tell you about it. but all you see is the win at the end. So you're thinking to yourself, I want that win.
Yeah.
I don't want to work. But you don't realize that most of us who have been doing this either have been working on the side or were nearly broke, but you didn't see it because this is all we were doing. You won't, do you know what I'm saying? People, because remember, a lot of people ain't going to be like, yo,
They're not telling you
I'm
the bad
funny,
part. Yeah.
but I'm broke, by the way, just so everyone knows. Like, no one's saying that.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time people think that there's a disconnect with success and the struggle that goes with it. People hear about the struggle,
But
but
never experience. They want to experience it.
They don't experience it, and they don't want to experience it.
Yep.
But they want the rewards at the end. So it's kind of like, for me, it's like there's no right or wrong time to transition, if that makes sense. But at the same, but because only you will know. But what I will say is you can do both. There's no problem in working and working towards your dream as well, because you're getting double money. That's one thing, and also what that does is that doesn't put pressure on your dream as much. Because remember, if you don't do nothing else, your dream has to work.
Yeah.
The pressure is on, as in, like, if it doesn't work, it's kind of like you being in the sea. If you don't swim somewhere, you're going to drown eventually,
so
right?
you figure out how to get to shore. Yeah, that's a good point.
But then if you're in like a rubber dinghy and you're in the sea, you're floating, you're okay. But now you can be like, I want to paddle to here. Like you've got more choice and more choice about your destiny, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're swimming, you haven't. So I feel people need to look at it like that, as in, like, do you want to be in a rubber dinghy and kind of, it might be a long journey, but you're going to get there, or do you want to jump in and swim without seeing the island or shore?
No, that's good. That's really good. Let me ask you, what inspires you? Don't say money. Don't say money.
I can't lie. It kind of is, like, that's my main thing is I'm not going broke. As in, like, I like to be able to call stuff on my time. So if I want to lie in today, I'm going to lie in. If I want to wake up at 6 in the morning, I can wake up at 6 in the morning. If that makes sense. Like, I like the control of the financial freedom and the control that I can kind of do what I want to do. If I want to go on holiday next week, I can. Yeah. If that makes sense. I'm not the richest man in the world, but if my dad needs something,
you can be there.
I can be like, all right, cool. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like for me, maybe my motivation more is around being able to provide for myself, those around me, and being okay.
Okay, and just like the freedom of it all, financial, physical, all of the freedom that comes with it.
Yeah, and also the peace of mind as well. You can't really put a price on peace of mind.
Facts.
I'm not saying that I haven't got stresses. Yes, I've 100% there's stress, but the financial stress is the stress that can break the camel's back.
Listen.
That straw, do you know what I'm saying? That straw that can really, like, if you're suffering everywhere else and you're suffering there too.
Oh, it's over. Like, it's suicide.
It's just like, oh my God, I can't do this. Whereas if you tick that box, it can kind of help a bit. But remember, everyone's different. Some people, money is not important to them. So it's not a one size fits all. But to me, it kind of is.
All right, I'll take that. If you could give one piece of advice for someone that's listening, for whatever it is that they're in, whether it's any sector, I'm not even going to generalize the sector. If you can give, or a piece of advice that you would have wished you received maybe 10 years ago, what would that be?
That's a hard one, because if you tell me to give advice to someone, I'll just say to them, whatever you do, just be consistent. Like, consistency is key. I know people say it all the time, but consistency is key. And also, don't be afraid to try new things. Like, don't be boxed down and be like, you know what, I've started doing this, let me just do that. All right, do that. But then don't be afraid to say, do you know what, I think I'm good at this. Just try a few things, but just channel your energy in the right way. But a piece of advice to give myself 10 years ago, it would have been invest in Bitcoin.
That would have been a good one.
Because I would have put everything I had in that.
Bitcoin, you would have been floating right now.
And been gone right now. I would have been speaking to you from a yacht right now.
Right? You're absolutely right. That's perfect. So tell us, tell the people how they can get in contact with you or follow you on your socials or any of that stuff. Yeah,
I mean, my socials, so Instagram is Marvin Abbey, Twitter is Marv Abbey, Snapchat Marv_Abbey, and that's it. My email, marvinabbey@icloud.com. But Yeah, I'm just about, mate. It just depends, innit? But
Yeah,
my inbox
it's
on
crazy.
Instagram, I don't think people understand. And that's another thing as well. People need to realize that when you're speaking to certain people, like, you need to not judge people from how you see your inbox.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people, maybe they might have like 100 followers, not in a rude way, I'm not being
Cheeky or anything.
condescending or anything like that, but some people might have 300 followers, whatever. So your inbox, you can literally scroll your inbox and see everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Because whereas my inbox, I follow maybe about 5,000 people, but if I post a story
it's the
and it's something
response.
funny,
Yeah.
oh my God. Like, so if it's like you message me today and I come out of it, when I look back tomorrow, I've got to be scrolling for
Yeah.
ages
Yeah.
to see your message again. So it's kind of like, if anyone does message me, please just give me time in it, because I might not see it for a
Right
while, and it
away.
might go
No,
to the
you're
other
right.
part. What's the other part when it says 99, when it's got like
Oh,
the message
requests,
request?
like the bunch of requests. Yep, yep, yep. But the thing is, and I must say this about you: you are super engaging on social media, right? So, in your stories, you're engaging; in your comments, you're engaging. So that's one thing I would applaud you on as well, is how you kind of interact with your audience, whether you know them or not. You kind of have that personal relationship, and obviously, banter back and forth. So I do enjoy that about your social media, because even the comment section alone in some of your photos is just super ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's
people go
people,
there.
yeah, and people feel like they know you because, again, it's a podcast, it's you on social, so they have this connection where they just speak to you regularly, and you kind of just return it. So
Yeah,
that's
that's even at
amazing.
lives as well. When I do the lives, people, a lot of the time people come on the lives, obviously for the conversation on the lives, but most people are enjoying the comment section. They're just
Yeah.
having fun in the comment section. You just you just see people just having a field day. You're like, sometimes I look and I'm like,
No, you got to bring those back. The lives are amazing. Again, Marvin, thank you so much for being here on this episode, guys. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like this video. If there was anything about this video that you enjoy, go ahead and leave a comment, ask us questions. You can follow Myuze at Myuze_marketing on IG, and you have all of Marvin's social handles. Thank you again for tuning in, and see you guys on the next episode.